Good afternoon. This is the new Pan-African show called Afreeqa with your host, Katsalork Seifu. Please tune in on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on Arts TV. Today we have a very interesting guest for you. This is unlike any of the guests I have actually had so far. It's a very interesting subject for all of us, Ethiopians especially. I would love for you to introduce yourself.
That's a great introduction. Thank you very much. My name is Yonas Alemu, or Yonas Alemu. I grew up in Ethiopia. I was born in Ethiopia, in northern Ethiopia, in a rural setting, as most Ethiopians are. And I studied in Addis, my high school in Addis. And that's in a small summary where I originate from. And then I moved, I got a scholarship, and I ended up in Bulgaria, Sofia University.
Wow.
That's way, way back. And from there, I got another scholarship. I ended up in the UK, in London. I finished my studies in London and spent an awful lot of my life, pretty much 18, 19 years of my life working in the finance industry in the city of London.
How was your education experience in London?
This is way back during communist Ethiopia, during Mengistu's time. So I actually got the scholarship and, as I said, ended up in Bulgaria and then in London. I did engineering, actually, electrical and electronics engineering. That's where my university education was. And then I followed it with a master's degree in business and information technology. And my desire has always been to go to finance and business. But just life got in the way, and then I ended up in a completely different route. But that's how I started. But I never stopped there. I just continued studying and did what's called financial risk management, FRM. I really, really wanted to go into banking. That was my biggest desire. Banking, business, finance generally. And as I grow older, I realized, that's where my heart is. Oh. And but getting into the big, shiny Canary Wharf finance industry in the big investment banks wasn't easy, especially if you're not groomed to go into that direction throughout your life. Okay. And I studied engineering, and it did give me the mathematical background to go to banking. But I needed a specific finance knowledge and skills and training. So there is an association, an institute called Global Association of Risk Professionals. It's a financial risk management. So it's what's called quantitative finance. It's a very mathematical way behind trading and finance, and kind of slightly advanced part of finance and banking. I became a certified financial risk manager. I realized that for me to get to banking, that's what stops me. If I get that certification, I'll make it there. And I ended up in a bank called BNP Paribas, which is a French investment bank. That's how I started my banking and finance career. I was working in the trading desk, in the interest rate derivatives desk. So that's how it all started.
So you are passionate about banking?
Yes.
Beautiful.
I am.
So you did end up getting your passion.
I did. I did
lovely.
Indeed.
After graduation and experience as an African banker in London, were there any experiences that you want to share?
I guess the first thing to say, if there is anyone who is aspiring to go into banking, or it can be any other industry, there is really, whether you get there or not depends on how much you really want it. If you really want it, you can get there, because getting in the banking industry, especially the kind of trading floor area in the heart of the finance center of London, isn't easy. It's not smooth, and especially if you're not from a particular background, in a sense studied at a certain Ivy League universities, etc. It is hard. It's not easy. But if you really, really want it, you can get there.
You didn't have any problem because of color? Because I know, was that an issue at some point?
It probably was. It never bothered me. It never bothered me. I'll tell you something. I don't ever remember a moment where I considered that as an issue. I've jumped from BNP Paribas. I was at JP Morgan in the exotics commodity desk, and then I was at Credit Suisse. I was a vice president at Credit Suisse. Maybe there was a
And
barrier.
you just never.
But I
You chose
I
not
don't
to.
even want it to recognize.
Exactly.
I don't want
You
it. I don't
chose
have
not
time
to see
for
it.
that. Yeah.
That's lovely. So we're going to get to our main subject.
Sure.
Why is teff special? Is it really a superfood?
I guess if you come from the background that I came from, teff is a part of life in rural Ethiopia. I grew up farming teff myself as a child. I mean, I come from a farming household. So, is teff special? Oh, for an Ethiopian, it absolutely is. Is injera special? It absolutely is. We grew up with it.
Yeah.
It's part of our identity. And we also grew up believing that teff is Ethiopian. It only grew in Ethiopia. Obviously, it's not the case. It's not true. Actually, it's now a global crop. It grows pretty much in every country around the world. But for Ethiopians, it is definitely a part of us. And Ethiopian farmers brought teff to the world through probably hundreds, thousands of years of toil. And it needs to be recognized. And God forbids, if we work really hard at it, we could also benefit from it.
I think we should. Please describe how you relate to teff in its Ethiopian context.
To me, every Ethiopian, the majority of us, I will say, considering over 80% of us live in rural areas even to this day, every Ethiopian is involved in one way or another, either in the trade or in the farming or in the commerce of it or in the eating of it, in the enjoying of the food of it with teff. And there is, the way I look at it, I think there is a window of opportunity for us to commercialize, to create that association. We all take pride in the fact that coffee originates from Ethiopia. If you look at it from a commercial point of view, Ethiopia probably has 4% or so of global coffee trade. It's a minuscule, minuscule, tiny amount. Even that is in a raw green form. And the nation, we don't value add. The nation benefits, but very, very little. It could be an awful lot more. We haven't done any branding. We haven't done any value addition. Very little of it. And there is an awful lot to play. It's still not too late. It's out there for the taking. And teff is precisely in the same category, if not more actually. But time is of the essence, and that's the way I look at it.
Coming back to our question, how did you first encounter teff in the USA or in London?
I mean, I think most Ethiopians know or have heard about the fact that teff is patented by some Dutch businessmen, a business group. That was very, very painful for me personally, and I'm pretty sure I can say pretty much for all Ethiopians. How is it possible? Nobody even thought that teff grew outside of Ethiopia.
Exactly.
Not to mention being patented, which effectively the patent bars us from commercializing it and creating anything other than what we traditionally do, i.e. injera or bread or kita, we call it in Amharic. So, I mean, I knew about that. I was following that case. It was pretty painful for me to even think. It's an indication of the fact that we as a nation, as a group of people, have failed to commercialize, to brand, to make use of what is rightfully ours.
Right.
And, if there is no owner, if there is no owner to protect, to guard it, then it's up for the taking. So, I can't blame anybody for doing so. But I started seeing teff in all the health shops in the UK, especially around the City of London, financial centre, in the upmarket areas. And, I actually initially I thought it was Ethiopian because I knew it started growing they have started growing it in the US. I didn't think it was such a mass kind of a global crop already. So that's how it started. It's a very painful experience for me. It's very, very difficult to admit. Okay, there we go again. We talk about coffee now. There follows teff, and we are just watching.
It's actually sad. What does commercially cultivated teff mean? Is it that different from traditional commercial agriculture?
Yeah, I mean, that's the jury is out there, whether it's different or not, how different. Even if it is different, can it be, brought to kind of similar trend and commercialized and become the same? My personal take is the differences are very, very, very small. There's a fine line between what is grown using ox plow and what's grown using a big tractor in Idaho or in South Africa or in Australia. It makes very little difference.
Do you feel the Ethiopian government has the capacity to effectively promote its high global demand superfood around the world? Is it supportive of private sector efforts such as Lovegrass?
There's a lot of misunderstanding around this whole space. Teff is ours, or Teff shouldn't be exported, and the role of the government. I mean, there is a lot to be said about the role of the state generally with private enterprises, and how much role should the state play, and what is the role of the private entrepreneurs or enterprises. Frankly, the government should just create a conducive environment. Okay, I see all around me restless entrepreneurs all around Ethiopia who could exploit and who could compete in the global market. So whether the government can do it, it's not the government's role to do it. The government should just create the conducive environment. They shouldn't bar innovation. You try to stop innovation. You try to stop commerce at your own peril. That's basically what I need to say at this point.
Before I go any further, the name of your company is Lovegrass.
Yes.
And I would really, because I've been going around, after I've heard this, I've been going around town and actually mentioning, and everybody's like, what's Lovegrass?
Lovegrass, exactly. Yeah, I know.
So how did you come up with the name? Obviously, it's an interpretation of teff.
Correct.
But I would like to know your story behind.
Yeah, well, obviously, naming a company is an extremely important aspect of the whole thing. It needs to speak to you. When I started, I was still in banking. I was still at Credit Suisse and pretty stressful job as well that I had. But my heart wasn't settled. It wasn't there. I needed to do this. I realized this was my calling. This was my new passion. It was finance and banking and quantitative finance. Now I have moved on into Teff, back to my roots. So it was just one night. It was pretty much late night, and I was just searching for different names and considering. And then one of the name for Teff is William Lovegrass. And don't ask me why that William thing come from. I don't know.
I was going to.
There is actually it's a different kind of grass species. Winter lovegrass, weeping lovegrass, William Lovegrass. The edible part, the Teff is called William Lovegrass. And then I say Lovegrass. Okay. So Lovegrass Ethiopia, which means Teff is Ethiopian. That's what I wanted to do anyway. So our trading name is Lovegrass Ethiopia. That's how it came.
It's a beautiful name. Definitely beautiful name. What are we dealing with in terms of global market potential?
Huge. There is a big movement generally in the recognition of plant-based diet with high fiber. The vegan movement, which I'm sure gluten-free movement, and with all of these kind of ancient grains with less genetic modification, or actually no modification whatsoever. So pretty much there are lots of market trends all around the world, especially in the well-developed, so-called developed markets, and Teff pretty much ticks all of those. If one needs to understand its global potential, one only needs to look at what's happening with quinoa.
Exactly.
Quinoa
I was about to ask you.
Precisely. Quinoa from zero, it is a global phenomenon. It's well over $100 billion business now globally. It has pretty much lifted some of the Latin American countries, Bolivia, Peru. It's become a source of growth for the local farmers. And, for those who worry about availability of it, statistically, Andeans or the Peruvians, Bolivians actually eat more quinoa now than before. Yes. So, commerce is the way forward. So there is a huge potential out there.
That's funny. We can't say we're going to eat teff more because that's our staple, really.
Yeah.
As opposed to the quinoa, you know what I mean?
Yes, that is true. But yeah.
Do we have enough domestic teff supply to consider exporting? Don't exports drive domestic teff prices up? How can we address the serious problem?
That is very interesting. And it's a very, very good question as well. And I'm sure for everybody, for every Ethiopian, that is a massive concern. If we export it, that means there's going to be less of it for us. Now, that is your classic in finance called the zero-sum game. If I give it to you, that means, I'm losing one, right? No, that's not how wealth is created. Wealth can be created infinitely. You can produce more teff. There isn't a fixed amount of teff. If a little part of it is exported, we have less of it. That's not what our problem is. Our problem in Ethiopia is we produce less. Our productivity is our yield is very, very low. We don't mechanize. We only, rain-fed cultivation. One of our programs, by the way, we have a side program to work with farmers on how we can improve yield. Even there are patents out there. Actually, one of them is by a Ukrainian group. They can produce around 4 tons per hectare. Our Ethiopian production is a measly half of that, even if that. And quality is very poor because, you know how it's harvested. We work our cows around it, we scoop it, and then we grab all the fine sand with it. So our focus should be on how we can mechanize, on how we can improve productivity, yield, on how we can do more research in producing more. We can feed the world. So we need to get away from this thinking that there is a limited amount of teff. No, there isn't a limited amount of teff. We can produce more of it. We need to research it. We need to mechanize. We need to use a lot better technology to produce more. If we don't do it, others will do
Somebody else.
And others are already doing
Thank
it.
you.
It's a race now already.
Exactly, unfortunately. Who owns the brand Teff? Has Ethiopia confirmed its ownership rights globally yet?
There is no such thing called Teff brand. There could have been. We could have done a lot of work. When I say we, as a nation, we could have done an awful lot to protect our association with Teff and in its origin, and the work our farmers, our ancestors have done over Teff to bring it to this stage. We are sleepwalking and it's all gone now. It's a global crop. That is the first recognition. There is still some work to do. We can do some work. In my company, at Lovegrass, we don't market Teff. We market what's called Habesha Teff. If you go to my website, if you see my leaflets and my packaging in my products, it says Habesha Teff. It's probably a new concept for a lot of Ethiopians. There is an awful lot of teff production all around the world, in Australia, South Africa, you go everywhere. They can market teff, but they cannot market Habesha Teff. It's patented. Right. It's a trademark, it's ours. So it's similar to quinoa, by the way. There is royal quinoa, which is, the Bolivian government fought tooth and nail to protect that brand. So there is a lot we can do to create our association of, Ethiopian association with Teff, with Habesha Teff, and its unique nature. It's different varieties from different regions. It's all about marketing. It's all about telling the story. So to answer your question directly, there isn't such brand called Teff. It's out there for the taking, and it's up to us to work on it. That's basically what it is.
We have to work. Any suggestions on how the government can do things differently to further the global commercial benefits of Ethiopia from Teff?
Yeah, of course. The state can always do a lot. An entrepreneur or a business person like me, I'm now considered as, consider myself as a Teff business person or a gluten-free, a health food business person. I can try, I can do all, within my means to popularize, to create this global brand. Lovegrass Ethiopia is a Teff brand. Habesha Teff is a unique Teff brand. Movements or initiatives like this should be encouraged. We need to discourage as much as possible the export of raw materials.
Didn't we stop doing that? I thought we actually stopped doing that, and now we are exporting, like, when it comes to our coffee, we are now not sending raw coffee, we're actually roasted coffee, or no?
I haven't seen a lot of roasted coffee in the supermarkets in London personally, but
you see just the raw.
Raw coffee is always that comes out of Ethiopia. Okay. But in any case, again, it isn't the job of the state. The state just needs to create the right environment to encourage. And then the private sector, the finance industry need to have faith in entrepreneurs, who work around value addition, and entrepreneurs who are trying to brand something, who are trying to tell our own story, who are trying to go out to the market and compete directly. I mean, these kind of initiatives need to be encouraged. I mean, Silicon Valley wasn't created by thousands of tech giants you see today. It's one or two guys in a garage that did it, and people see it, and people see it can be done. People see its potential. The potential, and as a matter of fact, we don't even have a choice, by the way. It's not about potential. As a nation, even as a continent, if you want to expand that further, Africa, Ethiopia as a nation, need to manufacture. We need to create. And don't believe into thinking that one has to have petroleum or a certain something to expand or to grow. No, we can create it. We can brand something. We can tell our own story, and then we can compete out there in the global market. We can compete in our own continental market here. There is an awful lot out there to play.
Yeah, especially now with the free trade starting within Africa. That's a huge market for Africans.
I agree.
To be able to sell amongst each other. Are you planning on diversifying into the continent?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's a must.
I just hope it does happen.
Right.
And, our leaders, by our leaders, the continentally get their acts together and make it work and happen. But, why not?
So my next question is Teff popular in other African countries? Do you know if they actually know about it, if they use it?
They may not necessarily use it, but Teff is popular in other African countries for far different reason than we think. In Ethiopia, it's popular because we consume it. Right. It's a staple. We need it daily. Say in South Africa, they see the market potential around the world. So they produce it. It's very popular. It gets produced in mass. And the difference with Ethiopia and other countries, in Ethiopia we produce, we consume it. For others, they produce it, they export it, or they are trying to value add it. So you can see that, what's at play here.
For them it's business, for us it's life.
There we go.
But we can also use it in a good sense and actually make good out of the business, I guess, right?
Yeah. Actually, it's a very good point there, by the way. There is a fine line between business and the life you describe. I think if business doesn't get involved, there is very little value addition happening. Yield won't improve. We will not be exporting, which means we don't have foreign currency. If we don't have foreign currency, if we don't generate as much foreign currency as possible and trade with the world, that only happens when you trade with the world. Yeah. Then we cannot think of mechanizing or doing research, because mechanization, a tractor costs in dollars, it's not in birr. So these things are pretty much interlinked, so we cannot see them separately.
Yeah, you cannot separate them. When we see the variety of products associated with wheat, barley, oats, is it a correct statement to say we have not even started touching Teff's potential yet?
True. Teff is an incredibly versatile seed or grain. We have come up with around 17 different products already. So you've got plenty to look forward to.
Wow.
We are going to be releasing all these products manufactured here in Ethiopia and then brought to the local market and brought to the international market in stages over the next year or two. You can produce an awful lot from Teff. There's all sorts of technology involved in getting there without kind of destroying its internal nutritional profile. But to your question, we haven't touched its potential. Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
We recently noticed, because we have a lot of cornflakes cereals that come from abroad. But then all of a sudden, we started seeing Teff. We were like, who's making the Teff? So we were very excited that they've actually started making cereal in Teff.
Correct.
Now, that's one.
That's one.
That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, granted, when you live abroad, like you said, when you go through the supermarket, you see Teff made in pastas and, and so on and so forth. Can you give us a list of what you are trying to do?
Yeah.
Like the different items?
Teff has an incredible nutritional profile. One of its beauties, it has all essential amino acids for that. But one of its features is its high fiber. It's the smallest edible grain in the world. And because it's tiny, you don't peel it, you don't dehull it, you just smash it into flour. So it's intact, it has all its fiber contents in it. And fibers is in very, very scarce supply at the moment. We don't eat enough fiber. A lot of the bread and pasta, whatever, is refined starch, and it's really not good for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So because of its nutritional profile, if you apply the right technology, which is what we are trying to do, and hopefully in the future our future customers will recognize that. We also want to apply not just just flavorings and other things but in our own local traditional cuisine. So like for our Teff puffs, for example, no flavorings, no preservatives. We just put our barberry and spice mixes that we make here. So everything is made locally. So if you apply the right technology, you can make amazing products. You can make amazing pasta out of Teff. By the way, our Teff pasta was recognized the most innovative product of the year. Wow. And we have won a medal for it. And this is in England, in the UK, in London. Our breakfast cereal was also in 2020. We won a Free From gold medal. Free From is a food product that's free of all the known 14 allergens for the body. So we can produce and innovate all sorts of beautiful things from it.
That is excellent. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But you still didn't tell me or tell us the products that you do, or you're not going to tell us. You can't.
I would love to. But
because I want people to know that, like you said, we only know Teff as in kita or injera.
Correct.
Or maybe dabbo. Other than that, who live in Ethiopia, now we recently saw cereal. So we would like to know what else comes out of Teff.
No problem. I'll tell you what at Lovegrass Ethiopia we're trying to do. Okay. For a start, our mission is to create a reliable, admirable brand, health food brand, not necessarily focusing on Teff. Teff just happens to be one of the easily available ingredients here in Ethiopia. We have got all sorts of other ingredients we can use. Kocho, sergam. We've got all sorts of other ingredients. So the three main categories we're focusing on now, both for the local market and for the international market, is the snacks brand, the snacks category, there's a breakfast cereal category, and there's a powdered beverage category. Okay, so I didn't want to go deeper into this, but I
want you to go. I actually wanted your products on the table. Go ahead.
I wish if I knew, I would have brought my products. So let me start from the snacks brand. So again, as I say, it's all about high fiber, healthy, free from as much as possible, meaning no flavorings, preservatives, and all sorts of chemicals, sugars, and things like that. So we want to keep it as wholesome as possible. And I just hope, especially in Ethiopia, the consumer would learn to pick up a snack or whatever product, look behind it, what the ingredients are before giving it to children. It is extremely important. And that's the trend. It's not just it's tasty or the price issue. We try to be price competitive as possible at Lovegrass, in Lovegrass, Ethiopia. But that is what we want to do. We want to be known as Africa's most respected health food brand by 2030. That's our aim. Beautiful. We want to do in agro-processing what Ethiopian Airlines has done in the airlines industry, and I know we will do it.
Yes,
that's our aim. So,
yes,
so that is the snacks brand. So we're gonna be creating a lot of different kinds of snacks, healthy snacks, into the market. The next one is a breakfast cereal range. Again, as I told you, our crispy Teff flakes, which is in the European market, the free from gold medal 2021, because we added nothing unnatural, no flavorings, as little sweetener as possible, and we just packed all the high fiber ingredients in it. And those products will be coming to Ethiopia as well. We don't have what's called export standard products. There is only our standard. Whatever is good for the European market is good for the Ethiopian market.
Thank you.
So,
it's usually the other way around.
I do observe that, and it's always been a fascination to me why that is the case. Export standard. Okay, anyways. So
that's another conversation.
No, we don't have that. We only have one standard, the Lovegrass standard. So the next one is a powdered beverage. So powdered beverages are little sachets where we fortify with all the essential vitamins and minerals and amino acids. You know very well that nutrition is a big issue here. Nutritional self-sufficiency. It takes me back to my own childhood. Yeah. It's very important for all of us. So the idea is, again, a very high fiber, packed with nutrition, a small sachet. When you get water or milk, you put it in there, you shake it. It's very easily diluted, dissolved, and you drink it, and you get all your essential amino acids and vitamins and minerals. That's what we are trying to do. We are also scaling that up into protein shakes, which is, for the
builders,
bodybuilders, Weight Watchers, or even the ladies who give birth, who need to replenish their body. The idea is to make sure that all essential amino acids are in that sachet. And as I said, once again, we try to stay clear of flavorings and what we believe is unhealthy to our consumers. Or if I'm not drinking it, I'm not giving it to you. That's simple as that.
Exactly, that's the best way to do it. If I can't drink it, why should anybody else drink it? Okay, are there any things you have not yet addressed but need to? We're coming to the end of our... So I want to make sure that we have talked about, or you've put out there, everything that needs to be said.
I probably have covered pretty much most of what I want to say, but I think just generally as a society and as a continent, we need to produce. We need to focus more on yield. We need to trade with the outside world. We need to trade within ourselves, within the continent. This is a big talk, obviously, a big issue. Yeah. I'm not oblivious to the challenges there, but that will mean the government, the state, must appreciate it is possible. We can compete, and entrepreneurs must be empowered, must be allowed to innovate, to go out around the world and compete. The finance industry needs to come into place. It needs to have faith in the entrepreneurial community to support it. And just generally, entrepreneurship need to be encouraged. It need to be celebrated. We have the term nagari, in my opinion. I wish we could remove it from the Ethiopian, the Amharic vocabulary, and interpret, kind of, and bring something else, something more energizing, more. That is a solution to our problem. Entrepreneurs take an awful lot of risk.
They do.
An awful lot of risk. I know what the risk I've taken trying to do what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And people need to appreciate it. And change only comes when these things are appreciated. As a nation, it's either we do that, otherwise independence is a dream. It's impossible. You cannot be independent unless you are not self-sufficient. We cannot continue with soft loan and grant and aid and this and that. That's the one thing that I would love to say.
Yeah, it's beautifully said too. Thank you. So do you have any other interesting hobbies or skills sets that we might be interested in knowing? Or you think we should know?
Yeah. Well, I've got few, but at the moment, Lovegrass Ethiopia has taken all my time, and spending my children also the little time that I have is what I would love to do at the moment, which I'm not.
So you do have a family, you're married.
I do indeed.
Children.
I have 2 beautiful boys.
Wonderful. So we have actually finished our conversation, and I don't think you have anything more to say since you've already... I know I could just keep it open and we could talk for the whole day.
I think we could.
Yeah, because it's a very interesting subject. And to know that you as an Ethiopian and I call you an expat.
You could,
right?
Yeah.
You being able to do what you are doing while you're out there is really commendable. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And I give you my blessings to be able to actually do what you have thought of doing in the next, till 2030, right?
Yeah.
So I say good luck.
Thank you very much. It's a joint effort. You have given me an opportunity to share my views. It is, as I said, it's a joint effort. It starts from the farmers, the people behind the commodity, who make it all possible for us. The entire society and then the whole thing. So it's a joint effort. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much for coming to Afreeqa. Till next time, greetings.